happy to be here with you for this live episode of Can We Talk About Your WordPress Project? We're on part 3 of our 5-part series on setting client expectations. It's what everyone struggles with. They don't really struggle so much with setting the expectations. They just don't realize that's a huge part of solving the problem of things they're struggling with. We've already talked about the common client misconceptions that cause these issues and how to go about setting expectations surrounding respect for you as a professional. Today, we're going to talk about setting expectations regarding the budget, payments, and money in general. As a reminder, those misconceptions clients have about all the aspects of a web development project are respect, because they sometimes think we are just button pushers. We already talked about how to set yourself up as a professional, how to command respect as a professional by doing professional things. And budget and payments, which we're going to talk about today. And the next one, we're going to talk about design. And the final one, we're going to talk about common project problems that clients don't have any idea about or else have a misconception about, like scope creep and how long a project should take and that sort of thing. Here's the thing about budget and payments, and I'm sure I am not alone in this sentiment, but talking about money with your client sucks. I hate it, but you have to do it if you want to save your sanity and your pocketbook. I think it's even harder for Southerners because we're taught that that's just tacky. You don't talk about money. You don't ever talk about your salary or who makes more money or any of that sort of stuff in genteel circles. What you need to realize talking about money is that you need to qualify your client. Your time is money, so don't waste it creating proposals for people who aren't in your range of what you would accept for a project anyway. Just don't waste your time. Time is money. Establish a minimum fee and stick to it. Make sure your client knows what your minimum is, and you want to create educational materials that back up your position. A lot of that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but we're going to talk about it. First, let's talk about qualifying clients. How do you go about doing that? Well, I've seen several people do this. They create a pricing sheet, a PDF, and make it downloadable from your website and create an email follow-up sequence. Qualifying clients is all about weeding out the people that are not a good fit. One way to do that is to create this pricing sheet. Not a page on your website, but a download, because that serves as a business card. It's going to have your branding on it. It's going to have your name and address on it. It's going to have all of that, but the client is asking for it. You're being transparent about your pricing, but you're not giving it all away. They have to give you something in return for getting your pricing sheet. Then you create that follow-up sequence in an email. It would work like this. Your potential client visits your site where they see this big "See Pricing" button or "Get Pricing Now" or whatever you want to put on that button. Clicking that displays a form where they enter their name, email address, and a few other qualifying questions if you want to. The fewer of those, the better. Then you have your autoresponder set up to send that PDF automatically via an email that you've already crafted, so there's nothing you have to do. Have your autoresponder follow up a few days later with something like, "Do you need anything else? Did you have any questions about the pricing? What else can I help you with? Did you get everything you need?" Something like that. It needs to sound like, "Hey, I sent you this pricing sheet, just wondering if you need anything," and not salesy at all. Okay, what else do you want to have on the pricing sheet? You always want to make sure to include a disclaimer that whatever's in your pricing sheet, and these examples that I'm showing you on the screen are some I pulled off of somebody's website. It's an example of what you might want to do. Notice there's a link in this PDF document back to more information. We'll get to that in a second. Include a disclaimer that your estimates are custom estimates, that what you're giving here are ballpark ranges for these types of projects or these types of services. You want to include all your other services you do, like this person did with website management and search engine optimization. On the previous slide there, he had his for different types of websites. And then you want to include educational materials, like learn more about that particular product, or you could even link to articles that are more education about how to be a good website client or what you should be looking for and that sort of thing. Then you want to link to somewhere. If the client looks at your pricing sheet and says, okay, I want to have a conversation, you need to give them a link to your project inquiry form or whatever page on your website where people get in contact with you when they want to talk about an actual project. You can see how this really helps weed people out. If you want to create educational materials, what should you create? Here are the top 8 questions people ask about how to build a website, or questions you should ask before hiring a web developer, or why your website needs a maintenance plan. This is little chunks of educational material for your client. You can give them as downloads, and at the same time, you're capturing their email address. A website buyer's guide for small businesses. I am planning to create something that you can take and white label and use with your clients. The beauty part of this is you're not only creating educational materials that help your clients, they also serve as lead generation. They also serve as something that you can capture their email address. And you know what they say, that the money's in the list, and it's true. Let's assume you've qualified the client, they've seen your pricing, and they're interested. You've scheduled that pre-proposal meeting or call. What does your client need to know? I need to click because page down doesn't work at the moment. They need to know why it costs so much. They need to know all the stuff that's involved in building a website. They need to know what are the ramifications of late payments and what are the ramifications of non-payments. These are things that you need your client to know, but you don't want to smack them in the face with it either. During the pre-proposal meeting, you should ask about the budget. You should explain your estimating process. You should tell them your minimum based on everything they've told you in the meeting. You should give them a ballpark and then ask them if you're in the ballpark. You shouldn't ask all of these questions at one time, all bunched together. You know how I give you that pre-proposal questionnaire inside the Academy, that template? Use that, but scatter these questions about money, budget, your estimating process and all that throughout asking those questions. Then it doesn't seem like you're totally focused on money. And don't focus on the money first. Focus on how you can be of help. Then the money thing isn't so awkward. Let's say the pre-proposal meeting went well and the client's looking forward to your proposal. Here's how you can subtly show in your proposal or contract why your services may be more expensive than they were expecting. One way is your scope section. This is how I present scope in my proposal, because I really want the client to know these things are in scope, these things are out of scope. But on the in scope section, I want the client to know which things are his responsibility and in scope and which things are mine and which things are shared and so forth. By showing it this way, it highlights what is involved in a web development project. It shows what it's expected of the client in terms of their input and working together to design the solution. Another example of how to do this in a subtle way is your roles and responsibilities. Later, when we create the statement of work, I actually put names by these. But this does the same thing that the scope does. It shows all the different things that are involved in building a website. So you're not really saying, hey, look, websites cost a lot. Websites are not as cheap as you think they are. You don't have to say all that. Just by showing them these things, it's a very subtle way to give them the idea. This is a lot more complicated than those commercials on TV are telling you. But there are some things about money and payments you really have to be very direct about. Things like your payment terms, your deposit, the schedule you expect to get paid on, your change budget, acceptable methods of payment, late payment and collections policy, terminations and refunds. These are all things that should either be in your proposal or your master services agreement if you keep your contract terms separate from your proposal, which is what we now teach inside the Academy, or sort of. I'm about halfway through updating all of those to the new way of doing this. It's not really a new way of doing it. Nathan's been doing it this way forever, but it's a new way for me doing it. The other thing is your payment and cancellation for the website management services part, which might be different than your payment terms for doing project work. If you include all of these things in your proposal or your contract, that's not enough. You can put your things in those proposal documents all day long and hope your client reads and understands them. That won't work, because even if you're in the right, because later they didn't understand something that was in the contract and they made some sort of assumption, now you've got to explain it to them. You've got to have a discussion. It's awkward and it's uncomfortable. So to avoid that, here's my rule: always do a walkthrough of the proposal. This is one of those things I know I keep harping on, but I believe it is the single most common reason folks don't win projects. They drop off the proposal and wait for a response. No, you prepare the proposal, walk through it with the client, and ask for a deposit, plain and simple. There's all kinds of advantages to that. We've been over it before, but I'll mention them briefly again. It allows you to get the client to focus on things they need to focus on. It gives you an opportunity to review your processes and see if you're going to get any pushback on those things. It gives you an opportunity to, when they have objections, to address those and answer any questions they have. There's just no reason not to do a walkthrough, except you might be nervous or chicken, and it's easier to be invisible. We'd all rather be invisible. So now you've set expectations about money and the budget in your pre-proposal meeting, your proposal documents, and in your walkthrough. But then during the project, you also need to give your client gentle reminders and reiterate. Whenever anything you're doing during the course of the project involves money, like a change request or you're getting ready to invoice for the next big payment, go ahead and provide gentle reminders about the process. It doesn't matter how many times you repeat yourself. Folks retain learning when they hear it more than once. It's like a basic theory of instructional design. You're going to remember things you hear over and over and over. You didn't learn your multiplication tables the first time you heard them either. Somebody had to repeat it to you over and over and over. There's lots of ways that you can weed out clients who aren't a good fit financially, and how you can set client expectations about budget and money, both in a subtle way and where you need to be very, very direct. So that's all I have for you today. In part 4, we're going to talk about setting client expectations regarding the design, how to keep them in their own lane, so to speak. You know, you've got different kinds of clients. You've got clients who want to pick apart your design. You've got other clients who want to be the designer. Either way, it can become problematic. And then also regarding setting expectations about the design process. We're going to continue this conversation on Friday of this week in our Friday chat session. I love these chat sessions. They're getting more and more interesting as everybody shares how they are accomplishing these things or not in their business. I hope you'll join us in our Facebook group if you aren't already there. To join, you can go to this link that's on the screen, or you can search for WordPress PM while you're on Facebook. Our group should come up right at the top. If you've got friends that are also WordPress people, go ahead and invite them to our weekly chat. We'd love to have more people involved. We'd love to get more input. It helps everybody when people can share how they're doing all these different things. And I would like to remind you, this little video series I do called Can We Talk About Your WordPress Projects is brought to you by the WP Project Managers Academy, where you can learn everything you need to know to consistently get your projects completed on time, within budget, with the right features, without sacrificing profit. Go to wproadmaps.com/join us. There's a free track and a premium track, but everything you need to know is on that wproadmaps.com/join us page. Thanks for watching, guys. I try to keep these short. It wasn't as short as I liked it to be, but join us on Friday. Until I see you next time, as always, stay strong, stay productive, and never stop learning. Okay, so I'm going to turn the slide thing off. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great Monday afternoon, and I hope to see you in the group on Friday. Bye, guys.